Parents of Reddit, how did your son, daughter so win you over? My daughter's so gonna call him John, gained my full approval just recently. A little backstory, me and my wife had an accidental baby just last year. We are in our late 40s. And my family was rather shocked considering we already have a 28-year-old son and a 22-year-old daughter at that point. This may sound strange so far, but it will make sense later. My daughter met John in college and started dating after being friends for a year or so. Didn't take long after that before we met him and we thought he was a decent kid, if not a little bit socially awkward, and sort of uncomfortable around us. All of her previous boyfriends were more outgoing, and this kid was quiet. Didn't really think he was going to last. My daughter eventually got an internship out of country and now they are LTR. And I was skeptical whether or not this kid was going to stick around. Strangely enough, he visits the house and hangs out with my older son and we all talk and have dinner together pretty frequently, which is interesting considering my daughter never expected him to do this. I found out that the main reason that he visited us so often was because my daughter was worried that her new little brother would forget who she is while she was gone. So when John would play with our son when he thought nobody was around, he would show him pictures of my daughter making goofy faces to try to make sure that he will remember his big sister. When I brought it up with my daughter, she didn't know that John was doing this. That was probably the moment where I started wholeheartedly approving of him. Won my so's dad over by shaving him. We had a not too close relationship, always quite distant. After he suffered a stroke and was hospitalized, he couldn't move too well, and as he did not want to be washed and shaved by the nurses, and my so was not able to do this, it was my duty. Even though we couldn't really talk, I knew I got his approval. He said take good care of her. He died a few days later. Upon meeting my teenage daughters, so, she was always embarrassed by me at that time. So, she says, "Dad, are you drunk?" It's the middle of the day, and of course I wasn't drunk. I hesitate for a moment, and then just answer, yes. Her new so looks at me completely straight-faced and says, same. Sense of humor wins me over. Apparently, making my so smile. It seems that it was pretty rare enough for her mother to actually be surprised to see her smile. Not a parent, but a brother. My parents are divorced and remarried, generally don't really get along with their respective ex. My sister and her fiance had a housewarming party not too long ago and invited both sets of parents, along with other family and friends. My soon-to-be brother-in-law and I have always gotten along great. Who doesn't love drinking and fishing? So we spent the night just drinking and enjoying ourselves. At one point though, he and my stepmom are talking, and he calls over my mum into the conversation. I'm standing with my sister and we're both dumbfounded. Our parents have been divorced for like 15 years, have never spoke to one another, and this guy just pulled two of them together for like a 20-30 minutes conversation. It absolutely blew my mind. The next morning, while my sister made pancakes and we nursed our hangovers, he told me the entire reason for the housewarming party was to see how my parents would react around one another, and if needed, it wasn't. Telling my parents that they're eventually going to have grandkids before long, and if they want to be a part of their lives they have to act like adults and be okay with seeing their ex every once in a while. The fact he was willing to do that for my sister completely set my mind at ease. I definitely liked him before, but that was the moment I knew he was perfect for my sister. Pecan pie. Yes, fixing computers helped. Yes, him being a nice guy helped. But I swear my husband won over my entire family and extended family on his pie alone. Quote from every family meal ever before we got married. Is your boyfriend coming? Is he bringing that pecan pie? Now that we are married. Hey, where's his pecan pie? You know you married a winner there. He makes great pies. He makes great pies. If you know what I mean. My so bonded with my dad immediately by their mutual hatred of my older sister's ex-BF, baby daddy. Actually, my younger sister also had a trash can of a boyfriend at the time. When my so showed up with a car, a stable job, and actually treated me with respect, it was like a miracle. I think this is how my boyfriend won my family over too. just by not being my ex and having a car. You guys are making me feel very dateable. Thanks. Car? Check. Not piece of it? Check. Yeah man, sounds like you're better than most. I'll tell you the story of how my husband won over my dad. My dad has a sailboat, which he is kind of crazy about. My husband has a background in naval architecture. We went to visit my dad, and while we were on his boat in the marina, the guy in the slip next to us runs over. My boat is taking on water. He says, "Come help me bail it out." "Don't worry," responds my father. My son-in-law is a naval architect. Something to note at this point in the story, my now husband and I had only been dating for like 8 months. We weren't even close to getting engaged, let alone married. But now all of a sudden boyfriend is his son-in-law. So now husband just goes with it. Sure, I, the son-in-law, will see if I can help. He gets on the guy's boat and sees that there's water seeping through the floorboards. He thinks this is weird, given that the pump is going and the boat isn't listing or anything. So he gets down, sticks his finger in the water, and licks it. It's fresh water. Now husband says, "Your bilge is leaking. Did you remember to turn off the hose after you finished filling up your freshwater tank?" And that, my friends, is how my husband became a legend in dad's marina, and my dad's favorite person of all time. I know the exact moment I won my wife's family over. I could see it in her father's eyes. It was high school, before we started dating. The first time I went over to her house, actually. Her father and 2 brothers are all pretty tall, and I'm average height. It's a very alpha male household, and they had this thing they like to do to potential boyfriends. So when my wife left the room to go to the bathroom or whatever, all 3 of them stood, lined up shoulder to shoulder, and loomed over me. Blank-faced, glaring down, no words, no motion. Just staring, and looming. I found out later that her last boyfriend almost cried when they did this to him. I've always been really socially awkward. But an odd part of that awkwardness is that I'm never intimidated by people. I don't know why, but they just don't frighten me. I slowly stood up, looking them all in the eye, and then poked her dad right in the tummy. I said, "Boop." He stared for a second, and then a giant grin split his face. It turns out that he's a massive goofball. From that moment on, I was a member of the family. The whole dating and marriage thing was just a formality to them. My word, that mental image made me crack up for the last 5 minutes. Read the question wrong. So here's my real answer. I'm a martial arts instructor, among other things. I caught my daughter's boyfriend looking at my belt rack, 5th degree black belt, and trophies from when I was much younger, and he said, "Are all those yours?" Yep. "So you know how to throw someone?" Yep. "Could you teach me?" How much of a setup did I need? I took him into the backyard and threw his skinny ass around for about 45 minutes. And every time he hit the ground, he got back up with a huge smile and said that was awesome. Show me how. So I took him to my class with my daughter, and had her practice throws on him. He never complained, never flinched, and never itched. After class, I told my daughter I liked him. So, she broke up with him. That's Amazi. Oh, never mind. Kid got his ass handed to him by his girlfriend and her father over and over only to be dumped. Jeez. I thought it was going to be a great love story. The kid lost and so, but gained a sensei. It was my parents, actually. When my mum first met my dad, he was working in an auto body repair shop. Actually damn good at what he does. Well, to surprise my mom's dad, he borrowed my grandfather's 1968 SS Camaro, which had been nearly totaled in a car wreck a few years back, and completely repaired it. When they first met, my dad shook my grandfather's hand, said, "Mr. Haynes, my name is Kevin. Why don't you come outside?" His Camaro was sitting outside looking almost brand new. My mum says it was the only time she has ever seen her dad cry. This is so cool. Where the hell did they say the car was for the duration of the repairs? Tahiti. It's a magical place. I worked in an ice cream shop with my current so and her mum came in one night. Without knowing it was her mum at the time, me being friendly, I struck up a conversation with her while I got her ice cream and food for her. 3 months later I start dating the girl I worked with and I immediately recognized her mum when I met her for the first time. The first thing her mum said was, "Well, you already have my approval." Apparently fixing all of her family's computer and other technology related problems doesn't help. Rule number 1 for IT guys. Don't become your family's it guy. You can never do something right, and it's always your fault, from that point on.